Hello, my name is Cavalo with Capoeira Miami. The history of capoeira is interesting. It was developed around close to 500 years ago, actually by Afro-Brazilian slaves brought over in the Brazilian slave trade. Various different tribes that were brought over to the country formed, they were slaves, all worked together and things like that. And a lot of the escaped slaves, well, of course there were people that escaped, developed things called quilombos. They were actually like little societies made up of the escaped slaves, and they would train the art amongst themselves to be able to defend themselves against anybody that would try to, come into to their territory and maybe, bring them back to their owners and things like that. So they trained capoeira, a very primitive form of capoeira, which was their only means of self-defense. Later on, even slaves on the plantation began training capoeira. That's the reason why you see capoeira is very graceful in the movements. A lot of people mistake it for a dance. It's actually a martial art disguised behind the dance, because the slaves that were actually on plantations had to disguise it somehow. They weren't allowed to practice a deadly martial art in plain sight. So, when slave owners would come around, they would disguise it and, make it look more like a dance. That's another reason why it's the only martial art that is practiced with live music, live instruments, and singing. That's basically where a lot of it takes place. The root comes from, those times way back when, hundreds of years ago.